Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Evil Little Monkey here to bring you another build video. Now this one's for DPS Luna. I've been using this build to easy clear all of Axion Plains. It easily wipes out the field colossi, all the missions, the spikers, the bosses, and of course, yes, the elites and the normal enemies too. Everything just kind of falls over as you walk past it. Even those field colossi only take a minute or two to clear with this build. The only content I'd say this doesn't do extremely well against is the Wall Crasher fight. But if you're going to fight Wall Crasher, usually we'll just bring Serena, or Haley, or Clay with you. But this build revolves around Noise Surge and Gap in Time. Now, if you guys don't know what those do, I'm going to throw them up on the screen there, so go ahead and pause and read, as this is essential to the build. Now, the beauty of this build is you have a 100% trigger rate on Gap in Time, meaning you have a permanent 35% increase on all of Luna's damage, which is insane. She's probably one of the few Descendants who can do this and still keep maximum DPS going, and this just makes clearing Axion a breeze. I've been having a lot of fun with this one, but that's enough of me yapping. Let's go ahead and hop into this build video so you guys can get Luna going on Axion fields. Of course, we gotta start off with the mod section of this build, the core of the build. So I'll go ahead and break down each of these mods and why this build actually functions the way it does and how it achieves such high damage and crazy wave clear. So let's first hop into why we're running 3 crit mods here. So it turns out with Noise Surge, Luna's second and third ability actually increase her crit rate and crit damage. So it turns out DPS Luna actually is a crit character. So you're going to want to run emergency measures and frontline and skill concentration, all to get you a little bit extra crit rate and a whole bunch more crit damage. Now with this build, we will actually hit 100% crit rate. I'll go ahead and throw up the math right there on the screen. We actually do overcap, but with crit in first Descendant, it's always better to overcap than under if you can. So this will get you 100% crit rate. The next thing we're going to want to run is increased HP here. Luna has a pretty decent base HP, so you're going to want to run HP over shields here. Now, the reason we're mainly running HP is because Luna's Noise Surge damage is in a circle around her, so you kind of have to be in the thick of it, right in the middle of all the enemies. So you're going to end up eventually taking a little bit of damage here. Not too much, but the increased HP kind of just helps with survivability. I personally never really went down at all with Luna, so you don't really have to worry about defense too much here, but this, once again, just helps a little bit with survivability. Now, the ultimate mods are where it kind of gets a little bit weird. So the reason we're running multi-talented, that one's actually really simple. So multi-talented, when you run a singular ability, which all 3 of Luna's damage abilities here are singular, you actually just get a flat 30% increase to your skill power modifier across all your abilities. This just helps you get like a little bit extra DPS. But Potent Collector, this one is quite odd. So if you guys don't know what Potent Collector does, when you kill an enemy, you have a set chance to get a percentage of your custom resource back. Well, with Luna, every time you hit one of her abilities on beat, you get a custom resource. I think it's called a noise beat. Anyways, once you get 10 of these, one of your next cast of your damage abilities goes into enhanced form. Well, the funny thing is, Potent Collector gives you those custom resource back, but when you kill an enemy, it turns out if you kill multiple, it can give you, let's just say you're at 9 out of 10 of your custom resource, it could give you 3 at once, and then it actually resets your noise bar to 2, never giving you your enhanced ability. So it's kind of the weird thing, but the plus side is that this can actually let you cast enhanced notes back to back to back. So I think the max I've seen is 3, where I've just literally gone into enhanced ability. As soon as I got out of it, I casted my next ability and it was enhanced. I got out of that, and the next one was enhanced again. So this is kind of a risk-reward type deal. Do you overcap on your noise bar, or do you get the perfect one every time and just, stick in enhanced notes all of the time? But if you don't want to run Potent Collector, you can technically swap this out for defensive ones, like increased defense, resistance. This is more of a free slot. I run Potent Collector because it's a fun one to run, and it can, really pay off at times. Once again, you don't need to run Potent Collector. If you don't want to, swap it out for a defensive one. That's probably the next best thing. So maximize skill and maximize power are the next 2 we gotta go over. So the reason why you're running these, which give you increased cooldown instead of cooldown reduction, so we're actually going negative cooldown reduction, is part of the reason why gap in time really works with this, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the reason why you're able to run no cooldown in this build, and in fact run negative cooldown, is because if you hit any of Luna's 3 damage abilities, her 2nd, 3rd, or 4th ability, on beat, so you match it up and hit on beat, you actually reset that cooldown back to 0 for that ability. It's only if you mess up and hit the note off beat does it give it an actual cooldown of, well, in this build, something like 20 seconds. So, just don't miss the beat. And even if you do miss the beat, there's no real downside because you have 2 other abilities that you can just spam out. All 3 of her abilities do DPS, and it's very rare you'll ever accidentally mess up all 3 abilities, so this works out well, and then allows us to do maximize skill and maximize power, which have the highest values of any of the battle and attack mods in the game. Because once again, you don't care about cooldown, all your cooldowns reset to 0 every time. And once again, we'll get into why gap in time works so well with this right after we finish out the standard mods. But this is essential to the build that you run these 2. And the last 2 mods we're going to go over before we get into the trigger module are amplification control and skill expansion. Now you're running these 2 just for increased range because, you want your mass AoE on DPS Luna and you just want to hit more enemies at once and cover a wider range. And mix these 2 in with your inversion reinforcement, which also can give you expanded range, you're going to be hitting around capped out range for your abilities. And Luna stacks the inversion reinforcements incredibly fast since you just spam, 100 abilities a minute. Okay, now time for where it all comes together, gap in time. So as I said, maximize skill and maximize power, reducing your cooldown and making sure it keeps at 0 cooldown reduction is actually important in this build. That's because gap in time. So for anyone who doesn't know gap in time how it works, you should have read in the beginning when I put it up on screen, but just in case you don't, here's how it works. For your trigger rate, it's 100% minus cooldown reduction. So if you're running 50% cooldown reduction, gap in time can only trigger 50% of the time. But in this case, we're running 0% cooldown reduction. Actually, we're running like a negative 100 cooldown reduction. But, it caps out or bottoms out at 0. So that means gap in time is triggering 100% of the time. And gap in time's other passive is every time it triggers, whatever damage you did gets a 35% increase in damage. This is also an incredibly easy one to roll, by the way, because you only have to roll 1 stat on it. So it's very easy to get gap in time at a maxed out value. I think I've already rolled like 5 above 30 in the first few days of Season 3 being launched. So, very easy to grind out. Now, that 35% increased damage, it is literally whatever damage the enemies took. So if you crit for 1 million damage, that enemy also takes another hit of damage at 350,000. And if you, for whatever reason, don't crit, and we're just throwing out random numbers here. Let's just say it's a non-crit, and you hit for, 100,000. By the way, this build hits 100% crit rate, so you'll always crit. But anyways, if you hit for 100,000 damage, you would get a proc of gap in time at 35,000. So whatever damage you do, crit or no crit, max out or not max out, it always reprocs it at 35%. Which is insane, because that means Luna across all of her damage gets a 35% increase in damage no matter what. That's crazy. And this is why gap in time makes Luna so good in Season 3. Of course, after your mod section, we gotta hop directly into the arcade tuning tree. This is a pretty standard arcade tree for someone who's running crit skill power. As you guys can see, you're gonna want to hit that gold skill power node on the right part of the skill tree. And then at the top, you're also going to want to hit that skill crit rate and skill crit damage. Don't forget, Luna is a crit character, and that skill crit rate is going to help you hit 100% skill crit rate. So guaranteed crits. Now, for your mutant mod, as you can see up in the top right of the screen there, what you're going to want to run here is non-attribute cohesion. This is because you do have a lot of crazy wave clear. So you're going to stack that up instantly, and it just gives you the most bang for your buck if you can stack up the kill count really high. It gets you a lot of skill power, so you just do more damage. Now, for anyone who's wondering why we don't run defense neutralization, since you can run that here, it turns out non-attribute has its actually own resistance type, and that's not listed under defense neutralization, so we just don't run it, because it actually doesn't work on non-attribute defense. If you guys want to know, there are actually abilities that do reduce non-attribute resistance. It's just not defense neutralization. Now for your reactor, you're going to want to run a singular reactor. This is because all of Luna's abilities, every single one, is a singular ability. And you'll want to run, of course, non-attribute because Luna is non-attribute. Now, for your 2 substats, you're going to want to run double crit, so skill crit rate up and skill crit damage up. This is, once again, Luna is a skill crit character. And this just scales really well with her and helps you hit that 100% crit rate. Now for your component set here, you're going to want to go ahead and run Enlightened Mage. It's because Luna can stack this up instantly. With the 3 stacks, I get that 84% additional non-attribute skill power. And since Luna is non-attribute, this works perfectly. And once again, she can just stack this up within a second. So you always have this buff going pretty much. Now for your substats on each of your components, they don't matter. Just run as much defense in these as you can, and maybe 1 MP recovery modifier, and that's about it. It's because Luna actually generates all of her own MP herself. When you run your enhanced notes, it actually recovers some of your MP back. I think it's like 40%. So you really don't have mana, or you don't have MP issues. Mana MP, same thing. And you don't really need any of the other stats outside of survivability. So anything like max HP, resistance up, defense up, these are the ones you're going to want to go for. Also for your component cores, you're going to want to run 4 max HP ups, at least 1 defense, maybe 2. And then the resistance will vary depending on what you're fighting. Since she is non-attribute, you can fight pretty much anything, and it doesn't really have an advantage or disadvantage, since non-attribute is pretty neutral across the board. So just change out those resistance types for whatever you're fighting. For Luna's weapon that she uses in this build, it actually doesn't matter which one you use. Currently in the game, whenever Luna pulls out her unique weapon, you actually lose whatever weapon you're currently holding, and you lose any passives or buffs from that gun. So it really doesn't matter. Now they said they may change this in the future sometime, but currently just use whatever gun you want to use. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this build video. Now I've been using DPS Luna for a lot of my wave clear in Season 3, and it's been working out pretty well. But let me know what you guys think of the build in the comments below the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, or are planning to use the build, I appreciate you hitting that like button. Also, with Season 3 having just released, we're going to be releasing a whole bunch of new build videos across several characters. So if you guys want to be notified when those release, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And then I also stream most days on Twitch. I'll go ahead and throw out that information on the screen there. We've been enjoying Season 3 a lot on my channel, doing lots of grind, you know, killing wall crashers some, well, a lot. And once again, if you guys did enjoy this video, I really do appreciate you hitting that like button. It does help the video a lot. And I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch y'all again later.